to First Impression Sports Talk. I'm your host, Jasmine Pollock, and today we will be talking about the NBA Finals, the Miami Heat, even the series in Denver last night, 111 to 108, and we're going to talk about the Stanley Cup Final, where the Golden Knights take a commanding 1-0 lead over the Florida Panthers. So let's get started. Again, welcome back to First Impression Sports Talk. I'm your host, Jasmine Pollock. So the first topic today that we're going to get off our hands is the NBA Finals between the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. So on Friday, the Denver Nuggets take a commanding 1-0 lead over the Miami Heat at home. And we were just having a lot of questions as to how would the Heat make adjustments in Game 2. And last night they did. The Heat come out and did something that a lot of people haven't done in this conference, in this championship, is they haven't won in Denver since 2016. So this was a huge win for the Miami Heat, and this is the first loss that Denver has had at home since March this year, being that they were the number one seed throughout the whole season. So let's bring in Jeremiah, let's bring on Cole, so let's get into a deep dive of what's going on in the NBA Finals. So Jeremiah, this is your Heat team. I know you're excited. So what was your takeaways regarding the Heat evening out this series last night?
Well, mostly when it came to everything, shots were falling at the end of the day. That's the main key when it came to Miami. We had a lot of different looks when it came to the first game. A lot of things were given to us, especially open looks and a lot of opportunities for us, but we could never knock them down. And then, of course, Denver had a chance to just, escalate the situation on their end and just make improvements and, of course, win the game because you had Jokic being able to facilitate and also score at the same time, giving him the best of both worlds. Those things at the end of the day made them more dominant than ever because everybody was involved and everybody had everything put forward. And I feel like that was the biggest reason. And then Miami just being able to have suffocating defense this last game and plus having to Jokic to put down the ball and just score at the end of the day, not make him so much of a passer, really changed the atmosphere and everything to go in the game.
And not to mention, in the fourth quarter, the Heat outscored Denver 36 to 25. They erupted with Duncan Robinson leading the charge. He scored 10 quick points in the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter to put the Miami Heat in striking distance. And then eventually Vincent and all those great players come out and they scored very well. Jimmy Butler made some buckets. I cannot wait for Game 3 because we all know who's coming back potentially. Tyler Hero, who was the Heat's leading scorer, averaging 20 points a game. So this is going to be huge for Miami Heat heading back to Miami. But Cole, let's talk about you. So we all know Nikola Jokic, two-time MVP. To me, he is arguably the best player in the league right now based off of how he's able to facilitate, how he's able to score. But when he scores 41 points, they're 0-3. He only had 4 assists. His bread and butter is usually scoring and assisting and getting the rebounds. But last night, the Heat neutralized him. So, Cole, what is it going to take for the Heat to continue to put pressure on Denver?
I honestly think you just have to continue to do what you did last night. You have to neutralize Jokic. He is the best player. We all kind of know how the NBA kind of works. You see these teams like, for example, like a Golden State when they had Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Draymond, Klay Thompson. The NBA is truly, to me, just about stars and how your star players perform. Because you see those star players that are just able to take over a game. That's, to me, just how the NBA works. So you have to play good defense against Jokic. So that means you have to have your best defender on him at all times. Right. Because if you leave him wide open, he's going to take over. He is just that good. He is the best player in the NBA. And I don't know what else you could say.
Right. And like we said, he is a 2-time MVP for a reason. Should have won MVP this year, but they gave it to Joel Embiid. But obviously, we see who's left standing, which is Nikola Jokic, aka Joker. But when we look at it, Jeremy, let's go back to you. We look at Denver, right? And we've seen throughout this whole season, they've been the number one seed overall throughout the NBA for the past season. And we were just wondering, like, okay, is this Denver team for real? And they are for real because obviously they're in the finals. They're the best team coming out of the West. But what the Heat did last night, they made Jokic a scorer, simply a scorer. We all know Jokic can go get 40 plus. But again, they're 0-3 when Jokic scores over 40 points. So when we look at that, and they forced Denver to have to score and do different things that they normally don't do. Usually Joker and this offense wants to facilitate, wants to get the ball to his players and give them open shots and open layups and alley-oops and different things like that. But the Heat neutralized that and said, you know what, we're just going to score. And I think that has a lot to do with Kevin Love in the lineup now, because now Kevin Love is another big body that you could put on Eric Gordon and give them some issues on the defensive end. And then, of course, Jimmy Butler's able to guard Jamal Murray throughout the portion of the game. And I think Bam did a pretty good job of, they threw different bodies at Joker, but Joker's that good of a scorer. But what Joker's damage is getting to his spot on that elbow and passing the ball to different places. But Jeremiah, when we look at Denver, what does Denver have to do? Because it seems like Denver has already shown us what they can do. We already seen what they can do with Michael Porter Jr., with Aaron Gordon, with Caldwell Pope. What does Denver have to do this game or not go into a 2-1 deficit in Miami?
Well, when it came to this last game, especially the game yesterday, Michael Porter Jr., Pope, and all the rest of the bench, they have to show up when it came to that fourth quarter. I felt like when it came to Jokic having that big amount of points that he did, it seemed like more diminishing of just how disappearing of an act that Michael Porter Jr. has done.
Mm-hmm.
And plus you had Pope, and plus you had also Brown as well. Guys that come off the bench, and they had such a great first half, being better than actually the Heat's bench coming off of the bench in the first half. But it was a whole switch around in that second half, especially in that fourth quarter. You had knucklehead plays, bad turnovers because of the pressures from defenses. And I felt like when it came to a lot of certain shots that were given to them, they weren't able to knock those down at the end of the day. And when it came to Miami, they were knocking down the open shots that were giving to them just in transition. And I felt like the thing that Miami has that the Lakers didn't last season was better transition defense. Whenever Miami had a turnover,
absolutely,
that means the ball was stopped and then everything would be back into place. And that's just the same thing with Denver as well. They have great transition defense. And for both sides, I feel like it's going to be depending on the benches going forward.
Also, when we look at Denver's defense, they left, even in the first game, Miami had a lot of open shots, but they just didn't cash them in. But this game, you had Max Strus early in the game. He already set the tone with shooting those threes and different things like that. And it caused some things. I'm like, I already knew the Heat was going to have one of those fire nights, those nights where they're on fire, because of how early they started getting scores. Even when they were down 15, I was like, man, Heat's down 15. I'm like, they fought and fought and fought. And people say, oh, how did Denver do this? Let's remind people. In game 1 against the Lakers, they were up by 20. And the Lakers almost came back in that game. But, thankfully, Jamal Murray, he had a great game in the second half. But this is a different Heat team. This team is well coached. Eric Spoelstra's been here. He's been in this moment many times in different conference finals, NBA finals series. So he has a lot of experience. And then, of course, Jimmy Butler, he's battle-tested. This team is battle-tested. They've been to the finals before. Kevin Love, he has the experience. He's a champion. So when we look at this Heat team, they have more experience than Denver. If we really want to talk about it, they have more experience than Denver. Now, Caldwell Pope, he's been there. Jeff Green, he's been in different situations. But this Heat team altogether from top to bottom has more experience. So we're going to see what this Denver team is about, because now it's not an ideal situation that you lose a home game heading back to the opposing team's home court. So Miami's going to be loud. Of course, like we said, Tyler Hero potentially could be coming back. That's going to be some problems for Denver. I agree. I think right now, if I'm Denver, Michael Porter Jr. has to be better. He has to play better. Aaron Gordon, there's moments that he does well and there's moments he doesn't do well. So it's the consistency factor. Jamal Murray, we saw what he can do in the Western Conference Finals, and then in this game, he kind of laid an egg. It wasn't there. He had 10 assists, he had 18 points, but that's just not enough with Joker scoring 41 points. And I was looking at the box score. I saw 41 points and 4 assists. That's not a Joker-esque game. He's more of the maybe 30, 15 rebounds, 15 assists, triple-double. He is the triple-double king right now, and he just couldn't get to his spot. So they forced him to score, and Denver turned the ball over 14 times. So that's a big deal. So for Denver, but I have Miami winning in 6. I just feel like this Miami team is more resilient. I feel like coaching-wise, they have a better coach. And I think that what we're seeing is Eric Spoelstra out-coached Mike Malone last night. He did. And Mike Malone, you can see he's very uncomfortable because he said, even in the first game, we won, but we didn't play well. Then the second game, they lose. Now you're going back to Miami, a very hostile environment. Those fans are going to be crazy. Cole, what do you think before we head to break? Can Miami win this series, and will they win this series?
I think Miami can win, but I think Denver is the better team. Denver has the best player in the NBA. And that's, to me, just how the NBA works. It's that team that can get that star player, and that star player takes over. If Jokic can take over this entire series, like KD used to do, like LeBron can do, I think Denver is going to win, and I'm honestly picking Denver in 6 games. Now it goes back to Miami. Miami now has home court advantage. So I don't know. Miami can definitely win this series, but Denver's been the best team the whole year.
Yeah.
They sweep the Lakers. And you saw too with Miami, Boston almost came down from a 3-0 deficit and beat Miami in game 7 is just, it's up in the air. It's a toss-up. That's just how game 7s work. But Boston almost came back and beat Miami. So you could see Miami, they may potentially, they can slide off. But I have to go with Denver. I think Denver's the best team, and I really think Jokic is just going to take over the series. He's the best player, and I think Denver will win in 6, but I could see them winning in 7 too. I think it's going to be a very good series.
Absolutely. On that note, we're going to head to a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the other finals that's happening, which is the Stanley Cup Finals between the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights. So we'll be right back with the short break.
I'm Leon Thomas with the Leon Thomas Group. Podcast, virtual events, webinars, streaming shows, and so much more. We want to be your partner in all things virtual.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. If you'd like to be a guest on my show and see past episodes of my show, please check out my new and revamped website, JasmineOnSports.com. You can also check out my YouTube channel, which is First Impression Sports Talk. And you can catch up on all the great shows that I've had and different interviews that I've had as well. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's going to be @JazzyS, where I tweet a lot about live action games, live action sports events. So let's talk about the Stanley Cup Final. Now, my Tampa Bay Lightning are out. Very disappointing. But the other Florida team, which Jeremiah is really happy about, is his Florida Panthers are in the Stanley Cup. However, they are down 0-1 to the Golden Knights. So let's bring back Jeremiah and Cole to talk a little bit about the Stanley Cup Final. So, Jeremiah, don't worry. Don't worry. I think this was a warm-up for the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers are battle-tested. They took down the #1 Bruins, which no one saw coming, in the first round. I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about the series for the Florida Panthers, even though the Golden Knights are a phenomenal team. They've done a lot of great things. They're a surge. They're a team that can surge in the third period. But the Florida Panthers, I believe, still have a great shot at winning the series. It's just one game. So, Cole, I want to start with you. What is your biggest takeaway from game 1 of the Stanley Cup final?
I have to go with Aiden Hill, Vegas's goaltender. Wow. They got him for a 4th-round pick. He was phenomenal. That save was Braden Holtby-esque. We all know
that was a great save.
The ingredients to win a Stanley Cup. Got to get hot. Got to get good goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to catch. This is my favorite analogy to use for it. You have to catch lightning in a bottle, and you got to keep that lightning in a bottle for 2 straight months. You have to get those big players that come and perform. For example, Matthew Tkachuk scored the overtime goal in Game 1 and Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't care that Florida won 4-0 because that series could have easily went 7 games. It was a lot closer than it looks like on paper because 2 of those games went to overtime.
Yes.
And both those games could have easily went to Carolina. All overtime is in the playoffs, it's just a game of chicken. Really. It's who is going to make the first mistake. If you watched that overtime, the Game 1 overtime, that went, what was it, 4 or 5 overtimes?
It went to 4 overtimes.
4 overtimes, right.
Yeah.
And all they would do was they gain the red line and they would throw it deep. It was just who was going to make the first mistake. Carolina made that first mistake off of a turnover.
Sure
which
did.
was a really bad turnover. Tkachuk puts it top shelf. Tkachuk has been phenomenal for Florida. He really has. I love the way he plays the game. He's physical, and he can get those big-time goals when you need it. But Aiden Hill is that – I'm going back to Aiden Hill. He was that impact player for Vegas in Game 1. And also, I'm going to point out a couple of their other players. Carrier, Nicholas Roy, and Keegan Kolesar.
Mm-hmm.
They really stepped up for Vegas.
They did.
They saw the most ice time against Tkachuk, Bennett, and Nick Cousins, which is really good. And that's a third. I think that's Vegas's 4th line. If I'm correct.
That was their 4th line. Yeah.
Yeah, but they played really well, and Vegas still has those guys from the original team. They came in the league, I believe, in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
They have their original 6 misfits. First year, they were misfits. Shea Theodore, Jonathan Marchessault, Riley Smith, William Karlsson, William Carrier, and Braden McNabb. And they still have those guys producing on their team this year. I really like William Karlsson. He didn't do anything in Columbus. And since he's come to Vegas, he's really found his home.
I agree. And I think this series could potentially go to 7-2 because throughout the whole game, it was tied 2-2. But until, of course, the Golden Knights, they had a surge in the 3rd quarter or the 3rd period. And they have been that team all year that has surges in the 3rd period. They surge. 3rd period. You already know they're not fazed about being down 2-0 in the first 2 periods. They're not fazed by that. They come in and they said, this 3rd period, we're going to outplay this team and we're going to win. That's why they're here in the Stanley Cup now. And then, of course, the Florida Panthers, they had a great run beating the number 1 team. I still cannot wrap my head around them beating the Bruins. That has to be one of the biggest letdowns in sports history. I mean, the Bruins, fastest team in NHL history to get 50 wins. Fastest team to get a playoff berth that fast, and you get bounced in the first round. I mean, I'm just like, what happened? So, Jeremiah, let's go to you. Your Florida Panthers are down 0-1. They play tonight. They get a chance to even the series and head back to South Florida. But when we look at the box score and I'm watching the game, the Knights had multiple guys that scored. And only 2 guys for the Panthers scored. And I feel like that is a huge problem. They need more players to score the puck better than that. I mean, we've seen what they can do. But for the Golden Knights, they had multiple guys that did so many different things. They played as a team, whereas the Panthers played for 1 player or 2 players. The Golden Knights play as a unit in that 3rd period. But Jeremiah, What are the keys for the Panthers to even this series tonight?
Just for me, I think that they just need to just step up, like the extras need to step up in a way, because I know when it came to this last game, one thing I did love what Vegas did. They did amazing on their power plays at the
They
end of the
did
day.
phenomenal in the
They
power play.
did phenomenal, and I would just say for myself, what changed that game, I know many people wouldn't say, but what Cole was saying, that save from Hill, like it just gave the arena just much more flames.
That
Like
was
when that
extraordinary, and I
happened,
wish we
because
had a clip of it.
and it
Yeah.
was like, listen, he had the on his easiest look, but you would not expect him to get his put all the way back how he did. It was extraordinary, and I felt like when they had that, it gave them just more energy and just more drive. And that third period, just everything kind of fell off for Florida, because they was trying to play a lot of the hero ball at the same time,
The
like you're
hero
just
ball,
saying.
or
Yes,
what
the
you
hero
call
ball
it.
at the,
Yeah.
the same time. But I just felt like they left from what made them so successful in this playoff run, playing as a team at itself. And I think that the coach knew at the end, because he was just telling his players, and just even the media, let's just, effing breathe for a second,
Yes.
because they felt it when they first got out there. And it seemed like Vegas was, they was
They were
already into
poised.
it.
Right.
They was just
They were
poisoned
poised.
into it. And you already know both teams did not like each other already. Like
They were fighting.
3 minutes
fighting
inside
was
of
not
it,
left
they
and
were
right.
just so I just think that they just need to relax and just kind of go back to their game that it was, especially during this playoff run. And I think that
Absolutely.
it's gonna go deep. I feel like it's maybe gonna go within 6, because Vegas looks very strong and a team they haven't really faced, like in a while.
I got Vegas in 7.
Vegas in 7. I
I
think the
picked
series can go to 7. I don't know who is going to win.
It could.
I'm on that, because I think both these teams are strong teams, and what I've seen from both of them in these playoffs, they did a phenomenal job. So I have it going to 7. But let's give Aiden Hill his flowers. Save percentage, he had a .943%,
Man.
which is insane. He only had 2 goals against him. Won 8 games in this year's Stanley Cup final after winning 16 games on his own, saving his team. I mean, he did a phenomenal job. The Panthers shot 35 shots against him. He had 33 saves. That's ridiculous. Like, I mean, and even that one save, going across, I mean, breaking his back with his stick and literally stopping that play from happening. Exceptional. That is playoff hockey right there. That is you wanting to win a Stanley Cup. That play right there. But let's shift gears, because I know Cole wants to talk about his Penguins. Cole, Penguins hire somebody. Please tell me who they hired and why they hired them. And do you see this having major impact?
Yes, but I'm just gonna go and just say a couple more things about this Stanley Cup final. I'm picking Vegas in 7 because of Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel was the second overall pick in 2015. First was McDavid. Eichel might win a cup before McDavid, and McDavid is viewed as like the next Gretzky.
Yes.
Which is just insane. But Vegas, 3 of their 5 goals in game 1 was scored by their original 6 misfits.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys could really still perform. And if I have to pick right now for both teams, whoever wins the cup, as to who is going to be my Conn Smythe pick for Vegas and my Conn Smythe pick for Florida. Vegas, I'm taking Jack Eichel. Florida, taking Sergei Bobrovsky, because Bobrovsky has been unbelievable so far this entire playoff.
He has.
He's been a great story. If he wins a cup, I think he would have 2 Vezina trophies and a Stanley Cup. He's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer resume. Yes.
But if he doesn't win a cup, I don't know if I can put him in the Hall of Fame. Oof. I just don't know, because before this, his playoff track record has not been good.
It hasn't.
Really has not had a good playoff track record. I mean, he's choked in.
We scored a lot of pucks against him. The Lightning has.
But he did sign a big contract. So, still, I don't think if he wins a cup, He's a Hall of Famer. If not, I don't think so. But going on to the Penguins hiring Kyle Dubas. Kyle Dubas was, as many people who watch hockey know, he was the former general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a great hire. Really smart hockey mind. He's very good analytically. He is an analytics guy. That is the way how sports are going.
Yes.
And I feel that he will do such a good job to rejuvenate the Penguins organization. Missed the playoffs this year. He's got a lot of work to do. This Penguins general manager job, I don't care if they have Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Crystal Tang. Yes, it would be an intriguing job to take, but it's not the most intriguing because they have a lot of bad contracts on their team. They have like 7 or 8 no movement clauses. They can't move Jeff Carter. Gensel does have a limited no trade clause, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. They have Granlund, gonna have to get rid of him, gonna have to get rid of Petrie. There are a lot of contracts on this team that you have to get rid of.
Yes.
If they want to be
clean house.
Yeah, I mean they're gonna have to clean house. I would trade Gensel, even though that is such an unpopular thing that I'm gonna say, but I feel you have to trade him. You have to do something to make the team a little bit younger, and you have to get different guys. They need change. They didn't make the playoffs, and they have not won a playoff series since 2018.
Yeah.
So they have to make changes.
Mm-hmm.
No other way around it. But I think Kyle Dubas is going to be a good job. He built the Leafs. I do not blame him for not winning with the Leafs because their stars have been non-existent in the playoffs.
They have.
Matthews, what has he done in the playoffs? He's done nothing like the past couple of years. And nobody has won in Toronto. Nobody.
Nope.
They haven't won a cup since in the 70s, I believe.
The 70s,
I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually kind of bad because they have not won a cup in a long time.
They were excited about winning the series against the Lightning. Oh, we did. Okay. When's the last time you won a cup? Let's talk about that.
Jasmine, originally, I wasn't too happy with your Lightning for not beating the Leafs.
I wasn't.
Kyle Dubas was my guy from the beginning, and I didn't think he was originally going to get fired. But then they let him go. Penguins scoop him up. He is now the president of hockey ops. They're going to hire a new general manager. Do not know who that general manager is going to be. I want Matthew Darsh of the Lightning. I think he's the vice president of hockey operations.
Yes, he is.
He would be a great hire for the Penguins, and because the Lightning have built a really good team over the years.
I just think this hire for the Penguins is huge because I think he's going to bring a lot of energy. Because every time I see him, he's always bringing energy, always bringing the force, and he knows how to put things together. Obviously, Maple Leafs, there's a lot else going on with their players, and they didn't really show up how they were supposed to. But I think this is a good hire for the Penguins. It's a good move in the right direction because I think the Penguins need to clean house, get some younger players, get some fast players to go out there and compete, and get some guys like that. And of course, our VP, it would hurt me to see him go, but it would be a very good move for you guys in order to get you guys back on track. So I think that's going to be huge, very huge.
Yeah, it will be huge. And, I don't blame this on Kyle Dubas because I really do believe this was Brendan Shanahan, who is Toronto's president of hockey ops. But I do not think bringing in Tavares was a good move.
No.
At all. I felt that they limited themselves in the cap era, and they tried to build an all-star teams. Herb Brooks always said it. All-star teams fail because they rely solely on individual talent. That doesn't work in the NHL. You have to have those role players. You have to have that penalty killer. You have to have that guy that can go out and lay the body. You got to have that guy that can get in front of the net and just cause hell in front of the net. You need those guys. You need those role players. You need those defensemen that can move the puck, that can play very strong defense. And I don't feel Toronto's been able to get the right role players with signing Tavares. And I think if they would have just went with their 3 guys, Marner, Matthews, Nylander, and then they also have Morgan Riley, I think they'd be in a
much better situation.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yes, for sure. Thank you, Cole, for your insight. Shout out to the Penguins. Shout out to the Lightning. Hopefully both of our teams can get back on track. I know this year was a tearjerker, but I'm not totally upset because we've been to the Cup 3 straight times. So I'm like, okay, we're allowed to have a down year. But I hope for the Penguins definitely get back on track, be able to compete for more championships, compete for, in the Eastern Conference. So definitely I'm, rooting for the Penguins. But before we get out of here, I'm going to do a new segment, which is called First Impressions Florida Sports Report. I know that's a mouthful for everyone, but we're going to have a little conversation about that. So I have some news for Florida fans. So the Tampa Bay Rays, Yandy Diaz, 6-inning RBI single, turned into a 2-run home run, beating the Boston Red Sox 6-2. And now the Rays are now 42-19 and 6-1 against the Red Sox this season. Next, the Clearwater Threshers, which where I'm at, our minor league baseball team, canceled fireworks yesterday to have a safety protocol for juvenile eagles. So shout out to the Clearwater Threshers, and overall, they are the #1 team in the minor leagues as well. Tampa Bay Lightning, who we just talked about, re-signed defenseman Sean Day to a 2-year contract. And I'm really excited about this because he's a great defenseman. He was 6th in the hockey conference in defense and scoring the puck as well. So I'm really excited. We add more youth. We get more young guys like that. And he's been with us for 4 years. And finally, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, quarterback Baker Mayfield and quarterback Kyle Trask are still battling out for the #1 starting position for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because we saw those videos of them missing certain throws, but they are still battling out. And I have Kyle Trask starting this year as the Tampa Bay quarterback. That wraps up First Impression Sports Talk. See you next time for more. You guys have a wonderful day.